I don't know what a podcast is, but I'm told that all I'll need is a homemade show for petrol heads called Gareth Goes on Speed. Whoa! Gareth Goes on Speed. Whoa! That's all I need.
You're listening to a special green edition of Gareth Jones on Speed. I'm Gareth Eco Jones.
I'm Richard, 82% recyclable porter.
And I'm Zog.
Yeah, because you haven't got a last name,
No,
have you?
I'm
You can't have a middle name.
I don't have a middle name, no. I'm lost. It's like that.
Okay, guys, hands up, right, and all those listening to this show at the same time as well. Hands up if you really like cars that go fast.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So,
Yeah.
Do you know what? Can I just tell you that both Gareth and Zog put their hands up?
Yeah.
It's quite sweet. We were on radio, audio.
It might have been an enhanced podcast.
I've got to get my motivation
Are we
together.
being watched? I just stood here like a slovenly student going, I'm not putting my hand up.
There could be a webcam pointing at us right now. You never know.
I'll put some clothes on.
I said hands up, Richard. And Violet, can you come and stand next to me now, please? So, okay, guys, hands up if you like going fast in cars. Yeah, hands up. Are you starting to feel just a little bit guilty about it because of all the green stuff that goes on, and that we're intelligent people? Lots of hands up. Yeah. What are we going to do about it?
Well, I've just started driving around in a little Suzuki Swift Sport, which is a small car that's a lot of fun. And I've also just driven that Fiat Panda 100 horsepower.
I spoke to you when you
rang me when I was in the car, because it's a great little car. That it's Gareth rang me and the call came straight through. It's got a Bluetooth phone. It's got everything you want from a big car, but it's really wee and it's not very quick. But the point about it is, it's enormously good fun. Same goes with Suzuki. Same goes for a little smart roadster I used to have a couple of years ago. I do think you can have fun and enjoy driving in smaller cars. That said, if you gave me 70 grand, I would go out tomorrow and buy a Jaguar XKR. Sorry.
But the thing is that actually, what you do as an individual driver in terms of choosing, let's say a Prius over a Bentley, it is not going to make a huge amount of difference. Now, I'm not arguing against people making personal changes to help push our emissions output generally in the wrong direction. But something like that is really tinkering around the edges. It's making the big, shift to different fuels, biofuels, for example, or going to completely different kinds of energy sources in the long run that is going to make the difference,
Here's a little stat for you as well. Did you know that if every single person who's got a Bentley stopped driving it for a year, our CO2 emissions would go down by an almost immeasurable amount? It's something like 0.00003%.
But you can actually work out what it is. Someone's actually gone to the trouble of figuring it out.
They have worked it out in a theoretical way, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same, if everybody in Britain who has a 4x4 swapped it for a Toyota Prius, I think our CO2 emissions would go down by 0.003%.
I'm all for anything that gets 4x4s off the road. I just can't stand them. So I'm not going to stand up for 4x4s for a moment. But
I was hanging out with some people who had some Range Rovers and Porsche Cayennes the other day, and we were discussing how long it's going to be before they have to sell these cars and buy bicycles, basically, right? They're feeling the pressure. They're feeling guilty. They won't even bring them into London. They're afraid of what's going to happen. Now, that's kind of weird, isn't it? But
is that going to last, or is that just a passing phase in sort of some people's...
It's just growing social pressure. We were talking about this on the show a few weeks ago when I was defending the Land Rover Discovery, which I don't want to like, but I do. But I was driving one around London, and you can feel this simmering resentment from other motorists for you being there. And I think that's a growing social pressure. And I would always defend people's right to choose. I don't particularly like people driving 4x4s in London because I think they use them like battering rams. But there is this social pressure against them now, and you can't fight that. I saw there's a woman drove a V8 Range Rover up my street this morning, really going for it over the speed bumps, because you can in a Range Rover. And I sort of found myself glowering at her. I think everyone, we're getting dragged along in this tow of resenting 4x4s and blaming them for all the evils of the earth. And it's simply not true. But social pressure is growing.
They are, in a sense, taking an unfair amount of of the blame.
And the road.
Yeah, we should blame them for that. But it's, it's power generation and things like that actually account for most of our emissions, rather than personal transport. But personal transport is going to have to change, as so many other things are going to change. Partly because the oil's going to run out, and partly because we are going to have to do something about the whole greenhouse gas thing.
But okay, here's the thing, right? Everyone thinks that driving, say, an electric vehicle is much greener, but where does the electricity come from?
Power stations.
And aren't power stations a hell of a lot worse than cars in terms of emissions?
Coal-fired and gas-fired.
And depending on how efficient your electricity distribution network is, you may actually pump more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere by driving a certain mileage in an electric car charged from the grid than you would by burning petrol in the car.
So at the moment, would you say
you're just not polluting locally?
So all these sort of so-called green vehicles, they're feel-good vehicles, aren't they? They just alleviate your guilt. They're not. Really
in a sense they
are they?
In a sense they are sort of feel-good vehicles. They are. You're making a statement. Probably more than you're really making a huge contribution to helping the environment.
I remember in the 80s when coefficient of drag was one of the most important things when you bought a car. Audi sold the Audi 100 on its remarkable CD of 0.028, if I remember.
It was 0.30. It was the Calibra that went to 0.28.
Was it? Hang on, it depended whether you had the wider wheels or not. It really did. There was only one model that was very, very low.
That's true. It had no engine in it or something. That wasn't the point.
But we all found that very attractive, and there was a period where we all bought what we thought were aerodynamic and sleek cars because it meant better performance. Now, style has overcome that, and these days we're buying bluff-fronted
square
trucks.
Things,
again, because that's what we want to project, safety, However, I can see a future which is probably already begun where advertising for cars will have changed dramatically. The things that we will think that we really desire in cars, instead of being kind of performance and speed and safety, it will be doesn't harm the environment, grows daisies, something like that.
Yeah, and I think it'll be another marketing tool. It'll be just as much bunk as the safety argument and stuff like. Prior to that, what was it? I suppose performance before they got clamped down on that. It's a nebulous things like 0 to 60. No one drives in a way that would get the 0 to 60 figure that's claimed in the brochure because you'd ruin your clutch. But it's a good selling point. Same with the environmental thing, and the case in point being the Toyota Prius. I drove one of those around London and outside of London for a week and didn't get anywhere near the economy that they claim. Mm-hmm. Absolutely nowhere near.
Do we agree with the way that the economy of cars is measured at the moment? This idea that was introduced recently, whereby you take into account the longevity of the car, the materials in the construction of the car in the first place. I know it was created by Jeep, and they put Jeep at the top. Yeah. But they may have had something in there. There could be another way of looking at cars.
The concept is good. I don't know enough about the detail of how they did their sums to say whether whether they came up with the right answers or not. But in principle, it's the right way to look at things.
Let's come up with our own formula for.
Well, there's an interesting thing about the Toyota Prius and those hybrids, which I think this information came from sort of these people in the US who are trying to lobby to keep trucks the size of Manchester. But it said that all the batteries, the component parts of the batteries, come from a smelting plant in Canada. And it's one of the biggest polluters in North America, and it's decimated the local landscape because such are the horrible emissions that are coming out of this plant. So at its very root, the parts that need to go into a hybrid are coming from something that, on a localised level, is utterly ruining the environment. And then, of course, they have to be shipped to Japan from Canada. And then if you buy a car in Canada that's a hybrid, it's then shipped right back again on a boat that's belching stuff into the air, and so on and so on. It's an interesting point, that these total life costs in environmental terms, the footprint of the car, it could be higher than you'll ever know.
My brother, who's a staunch socialist and has been since the day his grandfather was born a communist, said used to drive around in a best mate's Rolls Royce. John, how does driving around in an old Rolls Royce, meet with your ethics? And he said, look, this car is nearly 25 years old. It hasn't been replaced with any other bit. It's still going to be here after long other cars have gone. That's a green car. I think he's got a point.
Absolutely, He's not buying a new car. He's keeping something going. Yeah.
So we should all buy
classic cars.
Yeah, 1970s, 1960s E-Type. Is that really green then? Please let it be green, please.
Gareth Jones on Speed, the
programme that brought you new music from Murray Wiki Walker.
Absolutely incredible!
Fantastic! Absolutely incredible!
Fantastic! Absolutely incredible!
Dexy's Midnight Racers.
Come already! We know what your chances of everything.
The Happy Tuesdays.
You go like a car, you go near and far. You go like a silver dream. Girl, you're like a Cadillac I had in the night. One that's just filled with cream.
Next, we feature new music from M&N.
We had a two-tone paint that's supposed to look both blue and purple. Sounds nice. But I had a problem with the mix, and you know what? It came out green, like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. How about you, man?
Rob Dylan.
Oh, American Eye don't go that well. It breaks down all the time. They wobble around in corners. They're fine in a straight line. Suspension like a road bridge. An engine that is plucky. 15 miles a gallon. If you're lucky.
And Barry Newman.
I'm toying with buying a Toyota. I'm toying with buying a Toyota. But the hybrid's not my style. I like electronics, calculators. And petrol's expensive, you pay by the mile.
Gareth Jones on speed. It's like Radio 1 has discovered motorsport. Or something.
Gareth Jones on speed. Ecologically sound and saving the planet. Saving the planet!
One of the big issues in the whole debate about where the environment is going and what we can do to ensure the health of the environment is that with the Earth's population as it is at the moment and as it is projected to grow, we simply cannot all expect to live, like basically like middle class Americans, which is essentially what a lot of people are kind of
in Arizona.
But driving around with our own cars, taking taking foreign holiday, flying abroad, maybe once or twice a year, having freezers, air conditioners. There's some really hard questions about whether you can expect even a reasonable number of people on the planet to be able to afford to do that. Yeah. And you can't simultaneously narrow the gap between the haves and the have-nots and reduce our consumption of natural resources.
I've seen the future, according to what Zog's just described here, and it's the 1950s.
Well, one thing, this is my
air travel, for example.
Environmental tip. People, wherever you live, if it's Britain or somewhere else around the world, discover your own country because it's probably very beautiful. Because I went to Suffolk the other week, the sun shone. Yeah. I drove up there in a diesel car with a fuel particulate filter, so no carcinogens, doing 40-odd miles to the gallon. So I felt quite smug about that. I'm not burning too much of our Earth's precious resources. And I went to Suffolk and it was beautiful and the sun shone. And I thought, there's a lot of parts of this country I haven't really seen very much of. Yeah. So forget going on holiday abroad. Just celebrate the beauty and majesty of your own country, and you won't be using a dirty, filthy aeroplane either.
Just as a final note there, Richard, Suffolk, of course, is the part of Britain along with Norfolk where if we get a 6-centimetre rise in the ocean levels at Arctic Point, we lose to the Channel.
Well, enjoy it while you can. Yeah. Because it may be gone.
These are the Sniff Petrol headlines. Ron Dennis turns in for the night. Following the old Cinquecento sporting, Fiat announces the new 500 shouting. And after advertising L'Oreal, Shell and Fiat vans, Michael Schumacher's career in TV ads seems to be getting ever stranger. Ooh, body for home. It's the only panty liner that gives me the confidence to complete a whole race. Ooh, body for home. Now with wings. Und a rear diffuser.
Gareth Jones on speed. How green is your valley?
let's talk about future technologies. I'm going to bag the fuel cell because I've got something I want to say about the fuel cell. I know you're down on hybrids, aren't you?
Yeah, I think they're snake oil. I don't really. It's good that Toyota are doing something, but I just don't. It's a stopgap. My bet for the future would be, as a realistic sort of medium-term goal, would be bioethanol.
Zog, that's what you were. Well, that's your belief, isn't it?
Well, I'm going to go for two if I can. First technology is yes bioethanol, but better bioethanol, because there is a certain amount of very valid criticism of the way that bioethanol production is being talked about at the moment, that essentially it pushes the price of maize up. It's not efficient enough. Too much land is going to be taken up by growing the stuff. We're going to have better ways of producing ethanol from all kinds of plant stock in the future. That's important. Second one, in all seriousness, I can't see any alternative to us actually putting huge mirrors in space in about 50 years, 100 years' time, because I
love it when you think like this.
I really don't think that the planet is going to get it together enough to do anything about emissions in time, if that is the biggest source of the problem, and and if in fact it turns out that the sun's output is as big a part of the problem as some people think it is, then the answer to that is mirrors anyway. So. Yeah. That's my tip, baby. Mirrors in space.
If you're living in space behind a massive mirror, will you still come and visit me in my new, bright new world future under the sea?
In Suffolk.
Oh, under the sea. Yes.
It's the solution to everything. Live under the sea. It's
Suffolk
fine.
Under sea. Is
Suffolk under sea.
Listen, as a Welshman, right, I'm putting my money on the fuel cell. It's a Welsh invention. Did you know that?
Yeah.
A Welshman invented the fuel cell. I've forgotten his name. I've got it written down.
Wasn't it the fuel cell then?
Fuel cell.
Over 100 years ago, wasn't it?
It was William Robert Lee, 1839. We wrote about this, didn't we, for that museum thing? He was the first man to suggest the idea that if you mixed hydrogen and oxygen in the presence of an electrolyte, you get electricity and water. So there you go. The fuel cell is Welsh. It got us to the moon.
It got us to the moon.
So the future of eco-driving is Welsh.
Can I just do a seamless local radio style link? Speaking of Wales, Gareth.
Yes, Wales, Richard.
I don't know whether you saw this week, but Connaught, who a bunch of engineers bought the old Connaught sports car name, came up with this hybrid coupe.
Yes!
Which is a bit odd for a couple of reasons. First of all, it seems to have the back off an old Austin 1100.
Yes!
And secondly, it's a hybrid. It has a petrol engine and obviously electric drivetrain, but the petrol engine is a
V10,
very low-capacity V10.
Yeah.
Now, I'm no engineer, but I'm telling you, the way to make engines efficient is to minimise internal friction.
Yes, right.
10 cylinders.
And it's 2.5 litres or something.
I don't understand that.
No.
Anyway, news in the past couple of weeks has been that Connaught, they've been busy developing the car. They had no factory to build it in. Thanks to the generous people at the Welsh Development Agency, they are going to establish their factory in South Wales.
OK, so I've come here to Connaught, and I have to say it's very quiet, this hybrid engine.
No, actually, the car isn't running. It's my colleague here trying to pronounce the name of the place we're putting the factory in. No. Just keep trying.
No, please don't. I'm soaked.
So, the Welsh car industry, after 30 years or so of the death of Gilban...
from Llantwit Major. I always wanted a Gilban Invader, or a Genie. It was an Invader, really. But, you know, this is the bizarre thing about Connaught coming to Wales, right? Being the only first manufacturer in 30 years in Wales, building whole cars who are identifiably Welsh, maybe.
Although Aston Martin is now Welsh as a result of Dave Richards leading the buyout.
It's true, Dave Richards being a Welshman, he's going to make Aston Martin Welsh. They're going to rename the Rapide the Catherine Zeta-Jones, maybe. But anyway, to get back to my point, right, do you not think that the Connaught sedan, saloon, whatever they're calling it, coupe,
I don't know, Austin 1100, whatever.
It looks just like the Gilban Invader. I'm going to put up... We'll enhance this podcast, right? The Gilban Invader and the Connaught, they're practically identical.
No, they're not.
They are!
They are not.
They are not.
They are not.
I'll prove it.
Okay, Gareth's just run off to get a computer to show me that they're not.
This is good because I actually can't quite remember what the Invader
The Gilbert
looks
Invader
like.
was a sort of two-door saloonish kind of coupe that, crucially, if you ever see one, you'll know what it looks like because it doesn't look anything like the Connaught.
Yes, it does.
What's the grille like? What's the front like?
Not like a Gilbert.
Yes,
Right.
it is.
Oh, he's okay.
So, come and see this. Come and see this.
Do you want me to just hold the fort here while you just... Okay. So, yeah, anyway, factory in Wales, they've got some money off the Welsh Development Agency, and they're going to start building cars this year in a temporary factory until 2009 when the real factory comes online, and they'll start building left-hand drive hybrid coupes to sell them in America. Go on, what have you got?
You seen it?
P1800, yeah.
Go and give me
What?
thoughts.
Yes or no?
Well, it's... No, it's nothing like it. It looks like a Lancia Fulvia with a little bit of Volvo P1800S on the front.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's about right. Yeah.
Okay, I think Gareth is going to have to admit defeat, but we will enhance this podcast so
Let's
that you can
stick
see what it
stick
looks like.
it
You
on
can
the-
decide
on
for
the
yourself.
And although I do think we're
Yeah.
probably going to have to end with the Welsh national anthem on this programme, aren't we?
I suppose I'll have to oblige. Say goodbye, guys.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Or as we say in Wales, ta-ra, rwan.
That's lovely.
Ta-ra!
Ta-da.
Mae hen wlad fy nhadau yn anwyl I mi, gwlad beirdd a chantorion, enwogion o fri. Ei gwrol rhyfelwyr, gwladgarwyr tramad, trosryddid collasant ei gwaed. Gwlad, gwlad, pleidiolwy fi'n gwlad, tra môr yn fyr I byr hoff bai, o bydded i'r hen iaith barhau. Mae hen wlad fy nhadau Pawb efo'n glir rwan. Roedd Gareth Jones ar frys yn cynhyrchiad Cymraeg ar gyfer whiz-bang.